Okay, it's been a really long time since I recorded a video. I think the last one was over a year ago at this point, pretty significantly. Maybe 18 months ago, something like that. And because all the StarCraft patching has recently happened, I guess I wanted to just make a video going over it as well, even though a lot of people have already done this. Um, so most of this is going to be focused on the hotfix patch, because it just came out yesterday and it's still pretty new. But that requires context for the old patch, which I think most people have seen, so I'm just going to speed through it. Some of the big changes, like Banelings getting their health back. I think this is an important change to make Ling and Bane feel better again and to stop forcing people into really fast infestors like they were in the last patch. Microbial Shroud, obviously, reducing ranged attack damage by 50%. This is going to be huge. Or this is huge, but because it's locked behind an upgrade and his cost increased to 100, I'm not sure how much use this will see. I think this is just one that's going to require like playing a bunch of professional games with and seeing how it goes. I personally don't think it will be that oppressive, but I could very well be wrong. So like some of the big ones for Protoss are the energy recharge reduced from 100 to 50 and the recharge time reduced as well, which just means you're going to have to spend more Nexus energy to get more recharge energy, which, this is a good change to stop Storm. And then importantly, some of the big ones that got changed were these 3 Storm changes, which were the damage got decreased slightly by 3 damage per second, and the radius went from 1.5 to 2, which is a massive, massive increase for the actual surface area. And also its range is reduced, but this just evens out the radius getting increased. Disruptor got a little bit better. I'm not sure how much this is going to matter. Probably still not very good because they still don't one-shot things. Surveillance mode for now reveals observers, and their vision range is pretty high. I think for most players, they just won't put them in observer mode anymore. So I don't know how big this change is going to be. It's pretty annoying, especially if you F2. But other than that, I don't think it's the end of the world. Oops, sorry. Terran siege tanks no longer being abducted in siege mode. I think this will probably be a pretty big deal if you're playing mech or against mech, but other than that, in just straight up pushes, I think it's fine to just use Blinding Cloud. Abduct, I think, is really only important if you want to pick off a few at a time. So this is annoying, but not huge, I think. Viking cost reduced just by 25 minerals, which, again, pretty big, but it's not going to be the end of the world. Drilling Claw's effectiveness increased. This is probably a pretty big deal, actually, and it might make mines see a little bit more competitive play. Hyperflight Rotos, research time decreased. This is just a cool change. I hope this allows newer playstyles with Hyperflight Rotors. Liberator sight range reduced. I mean, I think a lot of people have seen this already. Just it stops harass. And then, of course, these 2 big changes for the Ghost going back to supply and being light. With this change, it means that they take 3 Banelings to die, although that got changed in the hotfix. And also back to 2 supply is really big. These were the insane ghosts that Clem even asked to be nerfed when they were at 2 supply. But anyway, this one a lot of people have seen. What's new is this patch, the hotfix patch notes, which adds a few things. I think super importantly, Storm got its damage reduced again. It went from, originally, before all this patches, it was at 26.7 damage. Now, it's going down to 18.3, which will make it dramatically do less damage if you move your units out of the storm. If your units are still standing in the storm, they're still going to die because it lasts 6 seconds, which is a really long time. But you can split them out and they won't take an obscene amount of damage. So this is, I think, a really important storm nerf if they're going to buff the radius by so much. Because before, with the increased radius, you were still doing like probably more damage if you just hit the entire army, even if they split out of it, just by how much bigger the surface area of the storm was. But with this increase, or decrease rather, in damage, this is going to help against storm a lot. Again, you still have to split out of it. Unfortunately, you're not just going to be able to stand in it. But if you're capable of splitting out of it, this is going to be a really big deal. In addition to this, Broodlord's speed got reduced. For people that didn't see why this is, or like why this happened, this is because there's a bug fix on the previous released patch. Okay, it's this one: fix an issue where broodlings could greatly delay launch or fail to launch toward their target, depending on the position of the broodlord. This meant that broodlings weren't launching properly, and bug fixing this made them feel a lot better and actually start winning fights again. So because they started winning fights and a little bit of power was granted back to them, they've decided to make them slower. So it's kind of a revert a little bit partially back to those really big, strong broodlords that could take fights, but they were really, really slow. Of course, it's not all the way back, and the broodlords are still probably not going to be used, but it is interesting to see them, even if accidentally, making the big, like, slow, strong broodlords again. And then I think an important buff for Terran is this ghost increase from 100 to 125. Especially against Zerg, this means that Banelings before on the previously released patch notes, they would take 3 Banelings to die, but with this change it's 4 Banelings to die. Originally it was 5. So this just means it's going to be 1 more Baneling, and the ghosts in TVZ late game are going to be a little bit stronger. So in addition to them being 2 supply and taking 4 Banelings, but being light, I think this is probably overall a buff to the Ghost, because the Banelings are now not going to be too effective. They'll still be more effective than initially, but they're still not too effective. And those are really only the super hard counter that you had to the Ghosts at 2 supply, and now they're kind of just not even that great of a counter. So I think at 2 supply, these are going to be the pretty strong Ghosts, especially against Zerg. And against Protoss, I don't think this is the end of the world. It means they won't die to a Purification Nova, but I'm not sure if Purification Novas are going to be used in the first place, even with the 2 buffs. They still don't one-shot things like Marauders or Roaches, which is kind of a big deal. You really do want those Novas to be one-shotting those units. There's also a bunch of bug fixes that I don't want to go through because most of them are like tooltip issues. As you can see, Microbo tooltip, Observer tooltip, Liberator tooltip. I guess Blizzard just kind of forgot about tooltips when they updated the patch, which is unfortunate. I just appreciate Blizzard greatly for releasing new patches. This is something they almost never do. But now that we're seeing the hotfixes, I'm hopefully inclined to believe that they're going to maybe start supporting the game a little bit more, and if so, that would be awesome. So even if I don't love some of these changes, or even if I think maybe there's still some numbers that need tweaking, I really hope that this is a sign that Blizzard and StarCraft as a whole game are going in the right direction. And I appreciate you for watching this video.